Jimmy Reardon is a guy who performs his own poem at a place called the No Exit Cafe. That's where he meets a lady, and after 2 days, they end up sleeping together. But 6 weeks later, she calls him saying she's pregnant and needs money for an abortion. Believing her, Jimmy gives her $110, which he'd saved for college. But later, he realizes she tricked him and other guys too. Feeling desperate, Jimmy goes to his rich friend Fred to ask for money. He tells Fred that his dad won't pay his tuition unless Jimmy pays half, but Fred says no. So Jimmy comes up with a plan. He'll find a girl for Fred to sleep with in exchange for $110. While they're driving around the city, they see a lady reading at a diner. Jimmy talks to her, hoping to impress Fred. Fred is impatient and wants things to move faster. They convince the lady to join them at the No Exit Cafe, but things get messy when she kisses Jimmy. Fred sees them and gets mad, driving off and leaving Jimmy behind. Later that day, Jimmy thinks about his rich friends going to Ivy League colleges, which makes him feel like he's stuck in his middle-class life. The next morning, Jimmy's mom, Faye, comes into his room. She says she thinks his dad isn't paying his tuition because Jimmy chose a different school from McKinley College, where his dad went. Jimmy didn't want to go to an all-boys business school, but his mom thinks he should do what his dad wants or pay his own way. She plans to talk to his dad about it at lunch and wants Jimmy to come too. In the car, Jimmy sits with Susie while Fred drives, and Denise is next to him. Susie asks about their search for a girl the night before, and Fred gets nervous. But Jimmy tells Susie not to worry because she doesn't know anything. When they arrive, Jimmy looks for his girlfriend Lisa and finds her playing tennis with Matthew. They share a kiss, and Jimmy remembers how Lisa liked going to the No Exit Cafe instead of fancy places. He's confused why she can't see that he's not like her rich friends. Lisa comes back and asks Jimmy what's wrong. He wonders why she seems embarrassed to be with him. Lisa explains that her mom only lets her date Jimmy if she sees other people too. Eventually, Jamie asks if they want to keep arguing about the same thing forever, and Lisa says no. They kiss and lie down together, but when Lisa realizes Jamie wants more, she tells him to stop and expresses her worries about making love, even though she's curious. When Jamie tries to kiss her again, she pushes him away and walks off. Meanwhile, at the pool, Denise asks Fred to rub oil on her legs. Susie jokes that Fred is afraid of women, but Denise says he's just shy, which she likes. At the same time, Jamie tells Lisa that they won't see each other again until Christmas break because she's leaving for Hawaii. Lisa dreams of Jamie surprising her there while she studies. When Jamie asks how much a plane ticket would cost, Lisa says $190. Jamie realizes he only needs $88 more with the money he has left. Lisa doubts his plan to work and live with her in Hawaii while attending school, but Jamie is determined to prove her wrong. So Jamie goes to his sister Rosie for money and explains his situation. Rosie eventually agrees to give him $28. When Jamie returns home, he overhears his parents arguing. His dad, Hal, doesn't like that his mom, Faye, invited her friend Joyce over. Faye tells Jamie she already talked to Al about him possibly going to McKinley College. She advises Jamie to talk to his dad in the dining room. Al shows Jamie a newspaper clipping about a successful McKinley College graduate and suggests he goes there. Jamie thinks going to college in Hawaii would be better because he could work to pay for it, but Al angrily rejects the idea. He says Jamie should go to McKinley or get a job to help with family expenses. Al warns Faye that he'll punish her if he finds Joyce at home when he returns. Despite his dad's disapproval, Jamie goes to his job as a photography assistant, hoping for an advance from his boss, Ionis, to fund his trip to Hawaii. Unfortunately, Ionis is in a bad mood after an argument with his mom about his girlfriend, making it hard for Jamie to ask for an advance. Later, Jamie disguises himself as a robber to play a prank on Denise, pretending they're having an affair behind her husband Fred's back. They start having sex, but Denise cuts it short when she notices Jamie seems distracted. Jamie, flying to Hawaii the next day, asks Denise to borrow money for the trip. Denise refuses to lend Jimmy money because she promised her boyfriend, Fred, that she wouldn't. Jimmy reminds Denise that she didn't have a problem keeping their past affair a secret from Fred, but Denise says she doesn't keep secrets from him anymore. Later, Jimmy goes to Mrs. Spaulding's house and makes up stories about her son's love life in exchange for money. Mrs. Spaulding eagerly agrees to pay Jimmy, but she only has a check. Jimmy accepts it even though he doesn't have time to cash it at the bank. When Mrs. Spaulding learns Jimmy's age, she feels sorry for him and gives him hidden dollar bills around the house, leaving him only $12 short of his goal. Back home, Jimmy starts packing and writes a goodbye letter to his parents. Faye, Jimmy's mother, asks him to say hi to her friend Joyce, who is visiting. Jimmy heads to the living room hoping to ask his mother for the $12 he still needs. There, Faye introduces Joyce and encourages Jimmy to recite one of his poems for her. Suddenly, Hal, Jimmy's father, arrives home from work, and tense greetings are exchanged between him and the guest. Hal heads to the kitchen and scolds Faye for inviting Joyce against his wishes. Joyce excuses herself, saying she must leave to host her own dinner guests. Faye tells Jimmy to drive Joyce home, but he complains that he'll be late for the dance. Faye gives him $20 for the trouble, and he drives Joyce to her home outside. At Joyce's house, she flirtatiously offers Jimmy a drink inside but says she doesn't want to make him late. Though he initially declines, Jimmy changes his mind and accepts a drink. Faye tells Al that Jimmy took the car to drive Joyce home. Meanwhile, Jimmy compliments Joyce's interior decor, but she says it reflects her ex-husband's taste. When she remarks on her age, Jimmy disagrees, but Joyce points out she's older than him. Joyce says she doesn't want to make Jimmy late for meeting his date, Lisa. Despite being aware Lisa is waiting and Joyce is his mother's friend, Jimmy makes an excuse to stay. As the evening drags on, Joyce grows impatient with Jimmy's obliviousness to her flirting. She asks if he's worried about being late to pick up Lisa. Jimmy calls Lisa, who is upset she's been waiting for over an hour. After finishing a call with his girlfriend, Jimmy finds Joyce in the library and asks her to dance. When he kisses Joyce, she pushes him away, but then calls him back and they have sex on a floor. Afterwards, Joyce joins Jimmy in the shower. Later, while kissing in bed, Joyce answers a call from Faye about her son, Jimmy. As Jimmy hurriedly dresses, Joyce assures Faye that Jimmy is on his way home before leaving. When Jimmy arrives at Lisa's house, her angry mother says Lisa left with someone else because Jimmy didn't pick her up on time for the dance. Lisa thinks Jimmy is drunk, but he denies it. Lisa expresses frustration with Jimmy's selfish behavior and leaves. Jimmy follows Lisa into the bathroom, but she quickly leaves. Outside, Jimmy pins Lisa down and lies, saying he ran out of gas, asking her to listen. Lisa says she wouldn't have left with Matthew if Jimmy had arrived on time. She adds they waited for hours, and the night didn't go as planned. Jimmy promises they can still make the night special, but Lisa doubts it will feel that way now. She wants them to do something special immediately, but Jimmy suggests they wait until after the dance. However, Lisa clarifies that she wants them to do it right away. Jimmy makes excuses for why they can't have sex. Annoyed, Lisa pushes him away and stands up, saying she knows he doesn't want to sleep with her because he was just with another woman. Jimmy tries more excuses, but Lisa refuses to listen. She says she's never kissed Matthew before but is considering sleeping with him. After Lisa leaves, two staff members grab Jimmy and throw him out for entering the ladies' room earlier. Fortunately, Susie sees this and pretends to be his girlfriend, so they let him go. At a restaurant, Susie lists 4 girls still interested in Jimmy, but Lisa isn't one of them, worrying him that she lied about being inexperienced. On the drive back, Jimmy confidently says Lisa was chasing him, and Matthew isn't her type. However, he worries when Susie says Matthew writes too. At the party, Matthew recites a poem to win Lisa back, so Jimmy embarrasses her with a crude impromptu poem. Lisa leaves with Matthew, and Jimmy recklessly follows, demanding they pull over. Matthew beats Jimmy in a fight despite Lisa's pleas. Later, racing to beat Matthew, Jimmy crashes into a post after focusing on a train overhead and not seeing the vehicle ahead. Calling Joyce, he refers to her as Mr. Reardon like earlier, but she assumes it's Al calling. Jimmy is shocked to realize his conservative father, who constantly preaches family values, has been having an affair. As he struggles with his own issues of monogamy, he wonders if it's hereditary. When Jimmy calls home, his father, Al, angrily answers and demands to know where he is. Jimmy calmly mentions the woman's name, and Al realizes his son knows about the affair. When Al arrives, they wait for the tow truck and train in silence. Jimmy wonders if his father felt neglected at home and if his own shortcomings as a son led to the affair. Seconds later, Al says it's okay if Jimmy still wants to go to Hawaii, but Jimmy declines. On the train, Jimmy realizes that learning of his father's flaws allows him to see Al as a human just like himself. So Jimmy decides to honor the family tradition and attend McKinley College, bringing a proud smile to his father's face.